Voices from the Mausoleum is brought to you by the You Run Podcast Network and yourunpodcast.com. Be sure to check out the Girl and the Gay podcast, a bi-monthly podcast where Beck and Jay discuss their favorite movies, available on Apple Podcasts.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to Voices from the Mausoleum, and welcome to another episode of 5 Influential Horror, a series where I sit down with all kinds of horror fans and talk their 5 influential horror movies and why they picked them. Today, I'm joined by Allison from Who's There podcast. We sort of met, I think, on Twitter initially, and then I was invited to do an episode on there, and then now we're going to do Hair Influential. If you're not familiar with Who's There, it's a horror podcast. All the links are going to be in the description for this episode, essentially discussing with horror fans what it is they love about horror, what brings them back to it, why that genre, and quite an interesting range of people you get to talk to, because you do like filmmakers and podcasters and content creators and just regular horror fans. How long have you been doing Who's There?
Since August 2020, so it's a pandemic baby.
Yeah. So yes, and I highly recommend. The conversations are really unique. And I feel like some people say similar things, but you always get different answers for these kind of things. It always makes for some really cool chats. So definitely recommend going and checking out the podcast when you're done checking out this episode. So we're going to talk your 5 influential movies. I usually try to guess to see, I think 2 of your 5 have been on, but the other 3 have not been on this series before.
Okay, yeah. Awesome.
Yeah, it would have been 3 if we had not done the sub out, because that one's made it a couple times. But no, I love it. It's always cool when there's movies that haven't been on the list before. But yeah, so the first one that you sent was Scream. So yeah, and just kind of walk me through why Scream is on the list.
So Scream is the first movie that I remember. It's the first horror movie that I remember like renting with my friends and then watching.
Yeah.
And then it was really scary. And like after the first scene, we turned the lights out. And then by the end of the cold open, we were on top of each other. And we were like, let's turn the lights on. Okay, yeah, let's pause the VHS. So that was that. It started my love of horror.
Yeah.
And I also kind of just want to throw Scream 3 in there too. I am like a Scream 3 super fan. It was ahead of its time. I saw it 3 times in theaters, even though I was only 14.
Yeah.
I got some adults to buy me tickets, and even
sure.
I think one time I was going in by myself, because I've always loved going to see movies by myself. And I was going in just by myself, little 14-year-old, and the ticket taker looked at me and she was like, to the people ahead of me, she was like, is she with you? Because I was clearly 14.
Like too young to be there.
Yeah. And they're like, yeah, sure.
Why not?
So I was like, thank you. So yeah, I don't know. Scream 3. I love, yeah. It was like it's probably my favorite franchise.
Okay.
In horror, I really love like the Purge movies and like paranormal activity movies, but like Scream is just like, it was as I was coming of age. It's just that horror movie.
Yeah. I mean, Scream always makes a big list for me too. I think I'm also a big fan of that franchise. And one of the biggest reasons is I think because of all of the horror franchises that came out when I was younger, this was the one that I saw the most of them in theaters as far as, releases, whereas a lot of stuff that was from when I was younger, I didn't get to see until I rented it or many years after the fact. And Scream was something that I religiously saw with my sister. It was something that would go on to be something I always do with my best friends, like my Scream go-to, like we go to see that together now, but it just was something that it was like the one franchise that I saw consistently, like you said, coming as I was growing up. And it just was it's such a wild one to start with, because it's not just a regular slasher. It kind of changed the game for that kind of genre or subgenre of horror. And I'm a big Scream fan. I'm not the 3 advocate. I tend to find myself defending 4 more than 3, which I think it's usually one of the 2. People usually are like, no, I hate 4, or people are usually like, no, I hate 3. Those seem to be the 2, that people go back and forth with. But yeah, Scream is great. I didn't get to experience it as like a like a sleepover thing. That's an even cooler memory to have
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, definitely. I hadn't heard that people didn't like 4 as much until
Yeah,
recently.
more
Um,
recently,
but I
yes.
remember when 5 was coming out and people were doing like their series
Rewatch.
rewatch before going to see 5.
Mhm.
A lot of people came to me. They were like, Scream 3 isn't as bad as we remember. So I was like, yes, thank you.
Yeah. I think Scream 3 ranks lower for me, but it's not necessarily like a disdain.
Mhm.
I think when you like all of the movies in a franchise, it can be difficult sometimes to rank them or say like, "Oh, I don't like this one more than this one," or whatever, but I think I can appreciate its ingenuity. It did something very different than the previous two in a lot of ways, and I can appreciate that. I just missed, but you know what though? I loved 4. I hated the main ghost face for 4. That's like one of my least favorite ghost faces. I hate her so much, and I just I don't really like Emma Roberts in general, but I really hate that character. And I called that one really early in the film. And I feel like if that happens, then Scream's not doing what it's supposed to do because you're not supposed to know,
Yeah.
you know. And the first one, we thought we knew, and then it was kind of this weird back and forth, and it ended up being 2 of them. And then even with 3, like I didn't suspect Roman, and not in. I mean, you know, the reveal
Yeah.
was a big reveal, and I think
Mhm.
that means that they did what they're supposed to do.
Yeah, and it was calling Harvey Weinstein out before he
Oh
killed.
yes, before that's so true. Yes,
Yeah.
that's so true. Yeah,
But I would love to someday see the original script for Scream 3 be made because I think it's a really cool idea. Of course, it goes off the premise that Stu is still alive,
it's still
but
alive. Yeah,
and
yeah.
I'm a big advocate that he is dead. But
Yeah, I'm the opposite, but I think it's just hopeful. He's one of my favorites. Like, I know that's such a cliche thing to say, right? Because he's like one of the first, and everybody's like, "Oh, it's Stu," and like everybody's like that. But the thing is like I just really loved his character so much, and I love Matthew Lillard. I would just love to see him back, just completely messed, like wrecked, like image wise, like, and just come back and just be utter chaos. Like, I really wanted my sixth hope that didn't happen was I wanted him to be like in charge of the Ghostface cult. Like that's what I wanted so badly. They teased so many things and I didn't get any of it. And then Kirby pointed out the TV in 6 and I was like, oh, they're not going to give it to me. I could tell when she did that. I was like, oh, they are just laughing at the people who want that so bad.
oh, I know. I was like, yeah, see, there's the thing that killed Stu.
Yeah.
I met him at a convention once, and I had a
Yeah.
sign that said "Stu is dead," and he took it and he crossed out and he wrote like "not dead" in it.
Uh-huh.
So I was
That's
like,
great.
and he was like, I was wearing my T-shirt that says "Scream 3 rules," and he was like, "Scream 3 does not rule."
I didn't know I didn't know he had that opinion.
Maybe because he was supposed to be in it originally.
Oh.
So I don't know. Maybe.
That might be why he's so bitter about the and it's funny because like I know like when he was doing interviews for like Five Nights at Freddy's, he was really excited, I think, at an opportunity to be like a new icon and kind of step away from people being like, that's the guy from Scream. Like he's done so many things, but that's what a lot of people, especially
Yeah.
in the horror world, that's like what we were like, oh, that's our guy from the first Scream. So
Yeah.
yeah, Scream is great. I think Scream is a great example of a film that's influential across the genre in general. I think it's influenced so many things as far as
Yeah.
films and stuff that have come after. So yeah, that's a great one. Yeah, so your second one is one that's not been on here before, which is The Ring.
I can't believe this one hasn't been on here. This is such a good movie. It is my all-time
Yeah.
favorite horror movie. When I'm
Okay.
thinking of like my top 3.
Yeah.
I was 16 when this came out in theaters. I didn't know what I was getting myself into when I saw it the first time, but I went.
Yep.
I looked away from the face. Somehow I knew it was going to be gross and bad, and I looked away and I just heard everyone reacting. And then
Yeah.
I loved it. I love the mystery aspect of it, and I love that there's
Mhm.
not a lot of gore in it because I don't really like
Yeah.
gore that
Yeah.
much.
I think it's
Um,
PG-13.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
PG-13.
Yeah.
And I went back to see it again a couple of weeks later.
Okay.
Again, I looked away from the face, just heard everyone else reacting. I think I liked seeing it a second time just to like watch everyone reacting because I knew what was going to happen.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I just love this one. I got to see it in theaters again on Halloween 2021, I
Oh,
think.
that's cool.
And the woman who introduced it was like, get ready for the most intense PG-13 horror movie you've ever seen. And
Yeah,
there were a ton of people there who had never seen it before. I was
that's
like,
crazy.
guys, it was 19 years ago. Come
That's
on.
crazy. Oh God, has it really been that long? Jesus.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I love it.
Have you seen the original, the is it
Ring,
Japanese? The
yeah,
Japanese, the Ringu, yeah.
yeah,
Have you seen that
Ringu.
one? Yeah.
I saw it. I think it was 2021. I watched it finally because I was having someone on my podcast whose favorite horror movie was Ringu.
Sure.
Um, I'm not a fan of a lot of J horror because it may be something that's lost in the translation
Hmm.
from reading subtitles and not
Sure.
speaking the language.
Yeah.
But I feel like there's no atmosphere in most J horror movies, and especially in Ringu, there was no atmosphere whatsoever. There
Yeah.
was like that misty, spooky.
Sure.
Um, so I couldn't believe like how closely the American remake followed Ringu. So that was interesting. But I
Hmm.
would just rather watch the American remake. So
Yeah, I also was late to the original. I didn't watch it for the first time. I went through like an Asian horror binge and I watched like all of the ones that we have remakes of. So like The Grudge, The Ring, what was the other big one? Pulse, although I did end up really liking that one. The thing for me is like, I also love this movie. So you just said, you know, we were talking about Scream, you mentioned like watching it with friends. So the first time I ever watched Ring, I watched it at a birthday sleepover.
mhm.
And we watched it. We turned out all the lights, the same thing. I mean, that's practice. That's normal, right? But my friend's dad, like, called the second line because landlines, you know. So
Yeah.
like she had her line, they had their line, whatever, back in the day. And he called her line like as the credits rolled, and we screamed and screamed like we were so scared. It was such a crazy experience. And I just think in general, this one to me, even though it, like you said, it does follow very closely to the original, this one's scarier. Like
Yeah.
I
Oh,
when I
definitely.
watched the original, I was just kind of like get to the like I don't know, like it just felt like it was very bland to me, which I actually really do like J horror. So I was surprised. I expected to really love it, but I just felt like it was a little watered down for some reason compared to the American one. I thought the American one was so scary.
Yeah, I definitely agree.
Yeah.
Watered down, no pun intended.
Oh, I knew. Yeah.
Yeah, I wanted they were doing a midnight screening of Ringu at Brooklyn Horror Film Festival this year, so I was almost going to go and see if
Huh.
it was maybe scarier like in a theater at night with people.
Sure.
But then I was like, I don't want to stay up that late. So I'm going to pass. This is just not my movie.
Yeah. No, it would have to be something I was already like really connected to or really excited about to probably go do something like that. Yeah. And it's a book apparently too.
Yeah,
I haven't read the book.
I
I
haven't either.
just learned the book thing literally like within the last few days.
Mm, okay.
Did not know that it was a book. Which really isn't that surprising to me because I know myself. I never know stuff. I never like I didn't know that The Haunting was a remake. I didn't know that it was connected to the Hill House, even though they blatantly say Hill. There's a lot of stuff like that that just I don't pay attention. But yeah, no, The Ring hasn't been on here, and I think it's a great example. I mean, an intense one of the most intense PG. I totally agree with that because if you're going to do PG-13 horror, I think this is a great example of how to do that.
Yeah. Oh, totally.
Yeah. It's scary. It doesn't have the gore, so it doesn't that's, you know, that's part of the PG-13 rating. But it does do a really good job of building up atmosphere and yeah, that's a great movie. I haven't rewatched it in a really long time, but I think every time I've ever watched it, I've been bothered in some way by by it in every experience. Um,
Yeah. Have you seen either of the sequels?
the oh, is there more than one to the American one?
Yeah, there's Ring 2
So
and then Rings.
two I've seen. I have not seen
Yeah.
Rings.
Yeah, Ring 2, I don't it's not very good. I own it just because I was like, "Why not?" I found it at a thrift store. But,
Mhm.
I remember watching Rings actually with the same best friend that,
Yeah.
I watched Scream with for the first time.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Um, it was not a good movie, but I do like
No?
Johnny Galecki in that movie, and the idea of it is kind of cool. So I might rewatch
Oh,
it soon. I don't know.
okay. Yeah, I think 2 for me, it didn't really build any ambiance. It was a lot of cheap jump scares, and
Yeah.
I can't. It's hard to argue that jump scares aren't effective because they obviously work, right? But they work on such a superficial level. I
Yeah.
want something that makes me uncomfortable for like way after that moment passes. Like if something happens at night, I want to be thinking about it in the next scene when it's daytime and we're safe again. Like, and if it can't do that, then it's not to me being an effective scare. And I think 2 was frustrating for me because it was a lot of cheap jump scares. And and that's probably honestly, that's probably why I didn't watch Rings, is because I saw that and I was like, meh. And the first one was so good. I just never watched the other one. Maybe I should visit it though, just so I
Yeah.
can say I've seen it.
They take it, I won't say much about it, but they take the video to the internet.
Okay.
So yeah, it's an interesting concept.
Okay. Yeah, I'll have to probably find it and watch it. Although, well, I guess I don't have to see Ring 2 again to watch it, right? It's not really
No.
relevant. Okay, good.
I felt like Ring 2 was just more of the Ring, but like less good.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, yeah, and then one of the things my friend mentioned, we were talking, I don't even remember why we were talking about The Ring. It was before I even got your list, so it's weird that it came up again. But like my friend Kat was like, yeah, she's like, and the other thing I really liked better about The American is the reason behind the 7 days. And she was like, because she solves that in the American one, right? And I was like, well, yeah, because she was alive for 7 days in the well. That was the whole thing.
mhm.
And I didn't even realize or think about the fact that I don't think it addresses that in the original, or if it did, it just maybe, like you said, a little lost in translation. I don't remember, but anyway, yeah, just had little things like that that I thought were, yeah, it's a good movie.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're like all the pieces come together. Naomi Watts is amazing. I was about to say Naomi Campbell, not Naomi Campbell.
Yes.
But yeah.
The child actor in this is really good too.
He is really good. A lot of his lines, if you see it in a movie theater today, you laugh at a lot of his lines. I don't remember laughing in 2002, but
No.
yeah, a lot of it is very funny.
Yeah, like I think I remember being humored a little bit older on rewatches because of the way he talks, because
Mhm.
speaks more like an adult than I do. Like when he tells his dad, he's like, I don't want to be your dad, but I don't want anybody else to be. And he's like, that's a conundrum. You're just like, well, yeah, very definition of a conundrum. Yeah.
Oh,
So
yeah.
I can see that. Yeah. But I think he did a good job as far as like, he's very like Haley Joel Osment to me. Like he just kind of reminded me of like when you see what is it, The Sixth Sense, and they're just like, I don't know, like there's certain things I thought that were similar is what it reminded me of.
Yeah, definitely. And you were talking about The Haunting before. You didn't know it was a remake. How did that come to mind?
So I have a series on remakes, and we literally just covered it
Oh,
day
okay.
before. And so, but when it came up on our list, my co-host Scott was like, "Oh, like The Haunting, like that might do really well." And I was like, "That's a remake?" And he goes, "Have I seen a black and white horror movie that you have not seen?" And I was like, "I guess so. I did not know." And I didn't know that it was based off a Shirley Jackson novel. I didn't know that either. But I'm not like I don't know what you call it, like a big like classics reader. So I wouldn't have known that anyway, even if there had never been another movie. But then when I rewatched The Haunting this past week to get ready for that episode, he calls it Hill House. And I was like, wait, okay. I was like, I know nothing about this universe. Like, hold on. Okay. So the Mike Flanagan series is also based off of, and then rewatching The Haunting, there's a lot of similar scenes, like especially with Nell, where she's like, the staircase and the dancing through the house, and there's like these things. And I was like, how the fuck did I not notice that when I watched Hill House? But it just didn't even register. Of course, it'd been a long time in my defense since I'd seen The Haunting. So it was a first watch to see the original, which I loved. The original was so good. The black and white one, I loved it. But yeah, I didn't know it was a remake.
Oh, you're talking about the 1999 one?
Yes, the blue, the one with like the blue and Catherine Zeta-Jones.
Yes.
Yes, Owen Wilson for some reason, Liam Neeson and Lily, whatever her name is from The Conjuring.
Yes. Yeah. No,
Yeah.
I love that movie. I know it's not great, and I know most people don't like it, but I love it. I'm not really a big black and white movie person,
Yeah.
so I watched
Okay.
the original and I was like,
Yeah.
whatever. But Yeah.
Yeah, no, I get it. There's plenty of people that well, and I grew up on it. Like that was my introduction to like more horror. Like I started out with Poltergeist, but I ended up watching a lot of black and white stuff with my dad, like the Universal Monsters. We watched and then even moving into stuff that was in color, but like Planet of the Apes. I grew up on all of that old shit. So it's very rare for me to come across a horror movie that's in black and white that I haven't seen or at least didn't know existed. I did not know this existed and I loved it. And I also really liked the 99 one. I
Yeah.
get it. I know why it's ridiculous. It's over the top. I understand, but also it's really fun and entertaining and that house is stunning and I still really like it. I don't care what anybody.
I rewatched it a couple of weeks ago just for fun, and
Yeah.
the house is a college in England.
I figured it had to be some
Yeah.
crazy, yeah, because it's massive.
Yeah.
Yeah, the outside of it. I don't know how much of the inside was actual college versus set piece. I don't know, but
I
like
don't know.
the what do they call it? Is it called an atrium where there's like it's like a greenhouse thing where
Mhm.
there's like the statues in the water and the books that go over. Oh my God. Like I like this is like a gothic house of my dreams. Like I was so obsessed with the house and I love the iteration of Nell. I think the actress Lily did a great job and I don't know. I still really like. I defended a lot in the episode. I'm like, I know it's cheesy. There's some stuff that ain't great, but also I really liked it.
Oh, good. I'm glad to hear that. I love that
Yeah.
movie.
No, I still think I still think it's good. I like it. Even on the long time. It's been a minute since I've revisited. I expected to come out of it hating it, but that wasn't what happened. So. Yeah, so I'm dressed for your third. This one is on my original influential as well. And so that's Saw.
Yes, this I saw in theaters when it first came out. I had no idea what I was getting myself into.
Oh no, yeah.
Um, I think I was 18 at the time, and I went with
Yeah.
my then boyfriend. This is on my influential list because it is still to this day the only horror movie to ever give me nightmares.
Oh
I
wow.
went
Okay.
home and had nightmares that I was stuck in a saw trap that night.
Yeah, I can see
Um,
that. Yeah.
so I said, I'm done with this series forever. And I never watched a sequel until Spiral came out in 2021.
Yeah.
I like Spiral. I think it's like a cop procedural, like Law and
Sure.
Order
Yeah.
extended episode.
Yeah. I can see that.
Um, but then last year before 10, I made myself watch. Oh, I binged all the sequels, and they're not good. 10 was very good. I love
Oh,
10,
Ben was
but
good.
the acting, and I like the story that's through all the sequels, but it's
Sure.
just the acting that is fucking terrible.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, I'm a massive like I love Saw. So I didn't get to see this in theaters. But I remember and we may have actually talked about this when I was on your podcast, but you know, I remember sitting in the living room watching this with my dad and my dad got up because he's ADD and he like went to go do something right at the reveal and I was so upset. I was like, "What are you doing right now? This is literally the moment. Like this movie's almost over." And he gets up off the floor and I literally just like melted to the ground. I was like I couldn't, my brain just didn't work for the following like 4 minutes of the, you know, and there has never been, and I just don't think there ever will be. There has never been a horror film or any film that has ever made me feel the way I felt on that reveal at the end of the original Saw. Like there's nothing to compare to that feeling ever.
Yes, I wish I could remember how I felt in 2004 seeing the end. I don't
Yeah.
think I really remember. I kind of
Mhm.
experienced it through my friend who I rewatched Saw with in 2021 before I went to go see Spiral.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, it's a one of a kind movie, and I don't know if it's coming to a city near you, but Saw the musical parody is touring the country right now, and I saw it in New York. So
It's got if I haven't missed it, I feel like it probably would come to Atlanta. I feel
yeah.
like Atlanta's kind of a big enough city. I
Mhm.
think it would probably. I and so you didn't like any. So the only ones you like is the first one and 10. You didn't like any of the others. What about you didn't like 2 or 3?
They were okay.
Yeah,
I'm like I said, I like the story that's woven through all of them. I
sure.
just kept calling them like White Detective number 1, White Detective number 2.
I mean, sure.
Couldn't tell any of them apart.
That's fair.
Um, I did. My favorite sequel, I can never remember which one it is. It's either like Saw 3D or Saw 6. The one with the insurance
Mhm.
broker.
Yeah, I think that's 3D. Yeah,
Yeah. That's probably
that's
just
a good
because
one.
of the meaning behind it and like fuck insurance. That's my favorite
Yes.
sequel besides 10. So,
Yeah, yeah. I also really liked in that one we got the like I don't know what you'd call it, like the consequences of your action and how it impacts other people. Because his wife, his girlfriend, the one that ends up in the thing, whatever that's called, which is like one of my favorite traps. That's the insurance one, right? I'm not crazy.
I don't remember which trap you're talking about.
So it's oh no, I'm sorry. I'm thinking of the one with the guy who pretends to be a survivor. Never mind. Ignore me.
Yeah, that
Never mind.
he's
I'm
from
thinking of
yeah.
that one. That's the one that's my favorite trap is that heat thing where it just goes boom and it like closes over her and she did nothing wrong. And I'm just like, that is awful. She had
Yeah.
no idea that he was lying. Anyway, I got it mixed up. I watched them all before I saw 10. I did spiral, but I watched all the other ones and I cannot remember all of the details of like the three in between, like in the middle. Like I can't because I watched them all together. They just kind of like you know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like they meld
Mhm.
together. So, but yeah, no, the insurance one is really really good and very very realistic. And I loved kind of circling back to some of the story from that for 10. I think that was really smart on their part.
Yeah. What do you mean it circled back to that
So
from
like when he talks about in that one, in the insurance one, when he talks about these people who say they can help, and the guy in the insurance is like, no. I was wondering like if we were ever gonna get to see any of that. Like who is he talking about? What happened? Like, like that wasn't they didn't dive really into that after that. And then when we get the story in 10, which we know now takes place between the timeline for Saul is a little janky, but when he goes into the details of like this is the like that was the people or the whatever the procedure that he was talking about back when we did the insurance one, that the insurance company was like, no, we're not covering that. It's
yeah.
completely theoretical, like no, we don't know for sure, like we're not covering it. But it was just cool for them to like take that and
Mhm.
make sure, like I don't know, like some of those dots that they connect, just I really really like it. It feels like they're paying attention to what they're doing, I guess.
Yeah, that was my theory too after I saw it because I in the insurance one they're like there's this thing in Norway and
Yep.
then in 10 they're like oh she's a doctor from Norway. I
Yep.
don't know if it was exactly connected. I know that
Yeah.
the writers of Saw were retconning all of the sequels as they were writing them and looking at message boards to see what the fans were finding.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. No, 10 was so good. I'll continue to see these. Honestly, like,
Yeah.
yeah. I made hacksaw earrings for the movie when 10 came out.
Oh my god.
I was like into it because I didn't. There's a bunch of Saw movies I didn't get to experience in theater, but so this one was like one. I didn't see Spiral. I know I didn't see any of the last ones that kind of get a little. I think the only other ones I saw in theaters was probably 2 and 3, and that's it.
Okay.
So when I was like, I'm going to see X or 10, whatever, in theaters, like I have to go see it, and I'm so glad that I did because it was a great experience. Everybody in the theater like left, so no one in the theater got to see like those last couple minutes.
Mm.
And I was like, come on, like you gotta wait just in case. Marvel has ruined me. I'm always waiting for like end credits on movies now, but that one was good. I really liked it a lot. Saw is influential for me too. I always like I've been in denial about like my love for it for a really long time because a lot of people they take what it is and they push it down into this like one subcategory and it irritates me to no end. They're like, oh, Saw is just torture porn. It's like, but it's not. Like Hostel, yes.
Yeah.
Saw, no. Like Saw is like the total opposite definition of what that is. And so I get really like when 10 was coming out, there's a lot of those people coming out of the woodwork about the franchise. And I was like, stop it. You stop. I was getting so offended.
Yeah, everyone, I think I mentioned this to you when you came on my podcast, but
Mhm.
my theater was full. Everyone waited until the end scene and everyone was like losing their mind. Uh,
Yeah.
Everyone was also losing their mind when the red lights started going off at the end, when the trap started going off.
Yeah.
Um, but there was a guy sitting down in like one of the front sections and he brought his own jigsaw doll. So
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I was like, that guy is fun, but wow.
But also,
I don't want to hang out with him.
yes, that that makes sense to me too. Yeah, yeah. I haven't seen anything like that in theaters. That has not happened. In fact, I was the only person on theme, and all I did was wear a t-shirt. Like I didn't, and I think my best friend wore a Billy shirt as well. But yeah, it was. I haven't seen anything like that. I haven't seen people dress up to do anything. I feel like I should have gone to see Dune 2 just for that reason because I've been seeing these videos of people. I'm like, dang, I don't. It's a lot of commitment. I just go in t-shirts that match whatever movie I'm going to see.
Oh my goodness. I don't know anything about Dune. So how do you even dress? Do you just wear a cape? I don't know.
Well, so I don't know. I've seen the originals, but I'm not like a Dune nerd. Like I don't know. Like I didn't read the books. I don't like it's going to be I haven't even seen the first one. I need to. I just keeps getting put on the back burner cuz it's not horror. So I don't prioritize it. But there was like this video circling on TikTok of this guy on us. I don't know what they're called, like the sand things. And he's like riding around on this thing in the theater and I'm like that is such a huge commitment for like a 2-hour thing.
How did
And
you even get it into the theater?
I'm really surprised because like I know like you can't like take, especially after like some bad stuff has happened. I know that like you can't go to like a Scream movie and wear like a mask and then carry like a fake knife, and you can't do like a lot of theaters. Some I don't think care, but some the ones up here, as populated as they get, they definitely are not letting you in like that. They're going to tell you have to change and take it off and leave that stuff in the car. So I have no idea. They might have just been like, you know what, that was a lot of effort. You can come in. I don't know. I don't know. It
Yeah,
is
when I
crazy.
saw in September 2021, AMC was for some reason doing a 25th anniversary screening of Scream, even though it was a year early, I think. But they
Yeah.
did it, and I bought a ticket, and I went, and like 10 minutes before it starts, somebody in a full ghost face costume comes in and sits right behind me. And I'm like, I took pictures. I was like, I know how this goes. I was like,
It's
you better
literally
not
in a sequel. I'm not
We're not playing
uh-uh.
around here.
Yeah, honestly, that would make me so uncomfortable. There's like, and I'm all for like when you go to cons and stuff, you can look like that. But in a
Yeah.
theater where like, no,
Yeah.
that's scary. That would freak me. I wouldn't even be able to enjoy the movie. I'd be like, I gotta move seats. But you usually can't because they're like all assigned now. But ooh,
Yeah. Mm.
that's creepy. Well, you're still here, I guess.
I'm still here. I think maybe he took it off before it started. I don't remember what happened because I remember I kept turning and looking back at him.
Yeah.
So maybe I just burned my disapproval into his soul and he
You
took
might
off
have
the
felt
costume.
when you That's funny. He probably couldn't have there's no way he could see out of it that great either, because
Yeah.
they typically have those black films, but, I
Mhm.
mean, you can see through them, but not enough to watch a movie, I wouldn't think.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But no, Saul's great. I'm pumped about another one. I like I said, this is a franchise. I'll keep watching them. I don't care. Like, I like the franchise. I think they really showed me after all this time that they could come back with something good with 10, because I had high expectations, but I was nervous. I was like, this
Yeah.
is either going to be really good or really bad. I don't think it's going to be in the middle, and it ended up being really good. I liked it. So,
Yeah. That's also how I feel about like Paranormal Activity and The Purge. Just keep putting those movies out.
yeah. Yeah. The Purge is a movie that I do. It's like the franchise in general is one of my favorites. We're actually going to cover it on a franchise live this
Nice.
summer. And it's one of those franchises. I'm like, I don't know why people don't talk about them more. Like, I really love that franchise. I've seen all of them like 150 times. I've seen, I think, all of them in theaters. I'm pretty
Oh,
sure.
nice.
But no, I love The Purge. I think The Purge is terrifying, and it's so good and unique and realistic and a lot of things. And so, yeah, I'm with you on that. I'll continue to watch those too. They're supposed to do another one and bring
Yeah.
back what's his name from 2, an election year. Oh, I can picture his face.
I don't remember the names, but it's the politician, maybe?
It's the guy. It's the guy who works for her. He's like the badass that saves
Oh,
the
yeah, yeah,
the
yeah.
mother and daughter in two.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, but he was supposed to. Was at some point in talks of coming back, and I loved his character, so I was like, I'm here for it. Just like you said, keep making them. I'll watch them. I'm good with it.
Yeah, if you ever wanna feel terrible, just watch them all in one day. I've done that.
Yeah, they're heavy.
Yeah.
My partner and I tried to watch Forever Purge, and that's probably the heaviest one in my opinion, mostly because of the relevance. And we could like she was like, "Can we watch something else?" Like it was too much, and I was like, "I get it. It's a heavy movie. That's absolutely fine." We ended up watching like The Greatest Showman or something total polar opposite of that. But yeah, no, it was. I loved it. I thought it was really good, but they are heavy movies. The
Yeah.
only one I can watch, I think, that doesn't make me feel that way is the first one. The rest of them, because you're getting bigger perspectives of it, yeah, they're heavy.
Yeah. Election Year
Mhm.
is my favorite, so.
Yeah, I think that's probably my favorite too. Oh, I love them all. They're so good though. I don't know why more people don't talk about The Purge. It's weird.
Yeah.
Probably because they're so heavy. All right. Well, that didn't have anything to do with Saul, but moving right along. So your fourth one is this one has also not been on any of the list before, is a Cloverfield.
Yes, so I put this on the list because it was for the same reason that I had the Blair Witch originally on this list,
Mhm.
and then I was like, I think Cloverfield. It's because of the marketing campaign that it had behind it, and I was following it the entire time, checking the
Yeah.
website. I remember seeing
Yeah.
the trailer for the first time and being
Yeah.
like, "What is this?"
Yeah.
And then it finally came out, and I went to go see it, and I saw it at a movie theater that was down the block from the building that they are venturing towards in the movie.
Stop. Oh
Yeah.
my God. Okay.
It's called the Time Warner Center. It's very, very luxurious apartments and office spaces
Yeah.
and a mall. And
Yeah.
yeah, so I love the marketing campaign. I love found footage. I love that it takes place in New York City. Um, I actually saw it again in theaters at MoMA a couple of years ago, and
Yeah.
we were sitting a little bit too close,
Oh
and I
no.
was like, "This is very," like, I wasn't sick 'cause I don't really get motion sickness,
Yeah. Yeah.
but
Yeah.
had I been prone to that, I would have been sick because it was, yeah, it's a lot of shaky
There's
cam.
a lot.
And I love TJ Miller. I think maybe he's been canceled, but I thought he was really funny in that. Um, yeah, and the sequels are meh. I love that
They're
they're coming out with a
weird.
direct sequel soon-ish,
Yes.
maybe.
Yes. Yeah.
I watched all of the I think it may have been the first time that I got the DVD and watched all of the extras
Oh, okay.
when it
Yeah.
came out.
Yeah.
And I was so sad to realize that they had filmed so much of it on sound sets, but that like kind of made makes sense when you think about it because I don't remember them destroying any streets in New York in 2008.
Sure.
Um, yeah,
Yeah.
but they made New York look really good as opposed to a movie like Scream 6 that completely got New York wrong. But that's a different story.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I didn't actually know that. I don't own this isn't one I own, so I haven't seen any of the behind the scenes stuff or any of that. I didn't know that. But that you're right though. I mean, that would make sense. I think because Cloverfield had a higher budget than what I would consider like a normal budget for a
Yeah,
found footage movie. Because found footage movies typically indie, they're typically lower budget, blah blah blah. But we do get big ones, and this was one of them. And I
yeah,
remember watching it when it first came out, and I hated it. I was like, this is not
mm,
I just didn't like it, right? So I revisited it. How was it this year? It had to have been the last couple of months because we covered it on Found Footage Fridays. And I was like, I felt it's like such a weird feeling because I was like, afterwards, I was like, I loved that. Like, that was such a good movie. I
yay!
don't know what it was about it that and I wonder if maybe because, up until that point, the only one because this came out in 2008. Is that what you said? 2008?
Yeah,
So, really the only other one that I had to compare it to, because Paranormal Activity came out in 2009, 7.
10. maybe.
Was it after? It was after Cloverfield, though. Yes.
Yeah. Mhm.
Okay. So the only thing I had to compare it to at the time was the Blair Witch. And I think I was so young at that point, there was no way for me to go into it and not expect the Blair Witch. And it's not. It's action based. It's very fast moving. It's very different. It's about aliens. Like, it's completely different energy. And I think when I saw it originally, the only thing that makes sense to me is I just went in with really stupid expectations. And so now as an adult, especially somebody who loves aliens, who was like dying for more alien found footage that's good. It's like it was I enjoyed it so much on a revisit. And it's the first time I've watched it since it came out. I had not seen it
Okay.
again since then. And I ended up just really, really liking it. I thought it was a lot of fun. And it
Yeah.
was cool to see aliens. And I don't know, like, there's not a lot of alien found footage, and there's really not a lot of good alien found footage. There's like 2 or 3. And so it was cool to see something so like sci-fi action. I don't know. I really, really liked it on a rewatch. So my mind was completely changed after revisiting.
Yeah. Paranormal Activity came out in 2009. So
9. That's it. I knew it
yeah,
was close.
I didn't get to see that one in theaters, and that's like one of like my biggest regrets. That I
Yeah.
didn't see that in theaters. But
Yeah. I
yeah.
saw that one in theaters. I saw Cloverfield in theaters. I was too young to see Blair Witch Project, I think. I was late to that one anyway. I didn't see that till a little bit older. It had been out for a while by the time I watched it. Yeah, I loved it. Yeah, Paranormal Activity I'm a fan of that one. I saw that one in theaters. And talk about movies that give you nightmares. Very few movies have done that to me. That one got to me so bad. That being drug out of the bed scene, God, it fucked with me so bad for weeks. And at the time I had a roommate, but like, she was never home. I was home by myself so much, and I was like, mm-mm. It was so scary. But at the time, though, Cloverfield, I just didn't have anything else to compare it to. And for so many years after the fact, I always heard, like, I couldn't tell you how many people said this to me in general conversation and being a part of the horror community of like, well, I won't do found footage because I hated Cloverfield. It's like, fine, like, you don't have to love Cloverfield, but to completely ignore an entire subgenre on one of the earliest bigger movies, I think
Yeah.
is a weird thing to feel. It doesn't make any sense to me.
And it's a huge studio. It's J.J. Abrams. They had a ton
Yeah,
of money.
it's huge.
Like I said, it was all done on sound sets.
Yes.
So, yeah, I did see Blair Witch in theaters. I was 13.
Okay.
And my best friend, who I watched Scream with and Rings, we went with one of my mom's friends, who she was like, I like horror movies. I'll take you. We didn't find it scary. I didn't find it scary. I still
Yeah.
don't find it scary, but I find it more funny than scary because of their interactions and like, but they're so
Yeah.
mean to Heather. But
They
I
are.
really, I
Yeah.
loved, I followed the marketing for Blair Witch as well. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. I was late to the game on that one. I learned about its tactics way after the fact. To me, so I watched it. Was I living on my own? I don't remember if I was living on my own when I watched it or not, but I do know I was living in the middle of the woods in a
Oh
house.
no, thank you.
And I remember watching it after all the hype, everybody, like, I was not the horror fan that I am now. Back then, I only knew the mainstream stuff. I wasn't in the know on horror at all. Most of the time I'm still not. Let's not get it twisted. But really back then I wasn't. And so everybody, even people I'd never heard talk about a horror movie, were talking about Blair Witch Project. It's like, I'm gonna watch it. I'm gonna rent it, from the Blockbuster video down the road or whatever. And I watched it, and I watched it by myself in the dark in a house in the middle of the woods. And it absolutely terrified me.
No, thank you. I don't like being in the woods. I can't sleep when I'm in a house in the woods. So
Yeah. Yeah. It absolutely scared me. But I don't know. It might would have been different if the circumstances had been different, or if I'd maybe watched it with other people. But that one definitely got to me. Now I don't think revisiting now, I don't find it very scary at all. But definitely the first watch, I was pretty young when I watched it, and I remember it being pretty scary. Yeah, Cloverfield didn't scare me, but it was I really did end up loving how action packed. Like, it's one I'll probably revisit
yeah.
again soon. I did end up really liking it, and I'm glad. And then what is it? 10 Cloverfield Lane.
Mm-hmm.
That's the next one. Did I miss
Yes.
one? That's
No,
the next.
that's the next one.
That's the one with John Goodman
Mm-hmm.
in the bunker basement. thing. I liked it. I thought it was fine. I didn't think it made sense as like to be connected to Cloverfield. I thought that was a little bit of a stretch, but I also didn't like that it wasn't found footage. I thought that
Yeah.
was silly. And there's another one
The Cloverfield paradox, which takes place in space
in
on like
space.
a
Yes.
drilling station. Where
Yeah. And
they're
the main character is a female.
I don't remember. I've only seen it once, and I didn't like it.
I think I only saw it once too. And then I'm sure you know this, that Quiet Place was originally supposed to be a sequel to.
Oh,
But
okay. Maybe I'd heard that before, but I can't
yeah.
recall. So
Yeah.
that's interesting. The reason why 10 Cloverfield Lane doesn't feel like a sequel is because they only decided to like tack on the name after they had made the movie.
Of course.
They show the address like while they drive off. So
Yeah. Well, and you don't it definitely comes across as more of like a abduction kind of film to me, or
Mhm.
like I guess like a thriller, or like, so you really, if you took away that last little bit of the film, you really would have like it just something totally like you wouldn't even think to relate it to the other. So it
Yeah.
seems like a bit of a stretch.
But
Yeah.
I want to see what they do with the direct sequel to the first one.
I would also like that because the first one I think got a lot right. Like I would like to see more of that. And as long as it's found footage, I mean, if it's not found footage, I'll be so upset. But if it is, then I'll be on board to go check it out and give it a chance and see.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, well, we'll stick on the found footage train, and that's gonna take us to your last one, which is Host.
Yeah. So this one just has a special place in my heart. Because it came out at the beginning of the pandemic, and it's just
Yes.
a really scary movie. It doesn't matter how many times I watch it. I'm still like cowering in the corner of my couch with like my hands over my eyes at certain parts.
Yep. Yeah.
So it showed how much you can do on like a negative budget.
Mm-hmm.
I know they've never disclosed how much money Shutter actually gave them, but I would think it is less than 20,000. Um,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, and it captured the time so well, and it is just one that I will always think of fondly and always show to people when
Yeah.
I want to show them something that is not gory but will scare them. And
Yeah.
they'll remember the pandemic just as fondly as
Ugh.
I do when I watch that movie. So
Yeah. Yeah. I love. Yeah. Host is top tier found footage for me. I always love when found footage movies in general take advantage of the technology of the time.
yeah,
And at that exactly to your point, just kind of piggybacking off of what you said, that was at the height of everybody was quarantining, everybody was starting to work from home, people were starting to lose their jobs, and kids couldn't go to school, and there was all these things. And the only way to communicate or to do your job was through Zoom. And it was this huge thing that blew up, right around that same time. And so, I mean, talk about a film that feels very real. It feels very real, and it's really well done from an effects side of things too. And the same thing is like you said, every time I watch this, I'm like, I know what's about to happen, and every time it still gets me every single time. Like, that one scene where it shows she's got that pre-recorded thing, and
yeah,
you as the audience catch on to it, I think, faster than the friends do, because you're like, oh no. And then that just abrupt,
yeah,
there's things like that. And that's not the only scene like that, but it's just one of the ones I think of when I'm like, I'm anticipating that because I know it's going to happen because I've seen it before, and it still gets me amped up every single time it leads into it. And it's really well done. It's very well acted. It looks good. Yeah, it's pretty close to perfect, I would say. I really liked The Host as well.
yeah. And I love the story behind it, that they just found their friends that knew how to do certain effects.
Oh,
And
I don't know that.
they
I
were
don't
like,
know that. Yeah.
yeah. So like they had a friend that could light themselves on fire. So they used them.
Oh, that's a good friend. If you're gonna make horror movies, those are really the friends that you need to
Right?
light themselves on
Yeah.
fire.
I
Okay.
I dated somebody once whose specialty was a stuntman, and his specialty was lighting himself on fire. So I got to learn a little bit about that.
Yeah, that's crazy to think about somebody really being lit on fire. like for an effect. I don't know. That's wild.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I didn't know that. But yeah, it's a great film. It's atmospheric. It's frustrating in like good ways. You know, like you find like I was really frustrated. I don't remember any of their names, but I was frustrated with the girl who's technically to blame for the whole thing. When
Mhm.
she's like playing around and joking, I'm like, oh well, I know who's to blame for everything that comes after this.
Yeah.
Because like that's just not something you're supposed to do in a horror movie, is to poke the bear. And yeah, it's a really, really good movie. And it definitely feels real because of the quarantine thing. I think that was a really smart move to do it that way.
Yeah. And when two of the characters meet up and they do that thing instead of, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Future generations will not know what that's about.
It's like a weird frozen moment of time that feels like eons ago, but it really, really wasn't that long ago. And it's hard to believe that now because at the time it felt like it was only going to get worse. It wasn't ever going to go away, and we were just going to be like that forever. And then, yeah, smart filmmaking, I would say, all the way around. And then the other thing is making it, exactly the length of the free Zoom call. I think that's so smart because, first of all, I think a lot of found footage does so well because it's short. If I get to a found footage movie and I see it's like 2 hours long, I'm like, I don't know. Like I feel like it shouldn't be that long if it's found footage. But this was like a short, quick watch. But it was, you get just enough until that call ends, and that's it, and that's all you get. And I thought, oh man, that's so good. I loved it.
We should get a sequel where they've purchased a Zoom Pro account.
Yeah. Yes. Where you don't get timed out at 44 minutes or whatever it is.
Yeah.
40, whatever it is, 45 minutes. Yeah. Pro account. Yeah. The real horror, paying for all this shit so you can make movies and do shows and stuff. It's expensive.
It'll be called Host Pro.
I love it. You should streamline that process.
I'll email Jed and be like, here, I have an idea. He'll be like, I don't think so. No. Mm.
Okay. I'd be like, all right, well, I'm going to resend it again tomorrow. Just I'm committed. Yeah. Well, cool. Well, yeah. So, like I said, 3 of those hadn't even been on here before. So, it's cool
which was the other one besides the Ring and Cloverfield?
Host.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah. So the only 2 was Scream and Saw, and not only were they the only 2 that had been, but they were 2 of my original ones when I did my first influential horror as well.
Nice.
I can't remember if Saw's been on anybody else's, but I know Scream has made a couple of lists. But I think it's because I tend to do content with people in our age bracket. And so, it's just, we came up with this same movies. And so I think Scream comes up on a lot of people's lists. And honestly, even some people who don't really like the franchise, they'll talk about Scream as an influential film. But yeah, it was The Ring, Cloverfield, and Host. Those were the 3 that had never been on before.
Nice.
So it was cool. Maybe I can work out something where you can come do the live with us for The Purge, because I'm like all about finding people who want to talk about
Yes, I love all those movies. I tried watching The Purge election year after being a poll station worker in the 2020 election.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Then nothing bad happened at mine. In fact, people were very nice and they gave us food. I had so much fun, but I was exhausted because it's like a 14, 15-hour day.
Long day. Yeah.
And then I took a weed edible. I don't remember anything that happened in that movie. I passed out.
Fair.
I was like, oh well. I mean, I had seen it before that.
I know what you mean though. From the revisit. I gotcha.
Yeah.
That's super funny. Yeah, I'm a big fan of the Purge franchise. I'm excited to get to talk about it. And I think I don't even know that I have to rewatch any of them to talk about them, but I probably will.
Yeah.
But anyway. All right, cool. Yeah. Scream, The Ring, Saw, Cloverfield, and Host. Yeah, and once again, Allison's links are going to be in the description for this episode, so you can go check out her podcast, Who's There, and follow her on the socials as well. What was it we were talking about when I was on the podcast? Where you had gone to the city that Silent Hill is based off of.
Oh yeah, Centralia, Pennsylvania is the town that is on fire. So.
Yeah, because you had pictures of that from when you went right on your social. So just a motivator also for not just the podcast stuff, but other cool stuff like that too. Cause you go and do a lot of stuff that I still on my bucket list, but yeah, so go follow her on Instagram as well. So, yeah, that's going to wrap up this episode of Influential Horror. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with us. Hope you have a good rest of your week. Enjoy your weekend, and we will see you in the next one.
All right. Bye.